international talk show where I get to talk every day to authors from all over the world about their books. So I'm here in California. Our first guest, his new book, by the way, I'm going to put it up here. You can take a look at it. This is the book 3 in the Stoker Trilogy, and it's kind of exploding out there on social media. Let me see if I can find him. There he is. Our guest is Tod Benjamin. Welcome, Tod.
Welcome. I'm pleased to be with you.
Now, this is book 3, but tell us what's happening out there. It's getting very popular this week in the United States.
Well, actually, we've been the emphasis this week has been on book 2.
Book 2.
The Taliban.
Here it is.
Which yesterday was the book of the day on the online book club.
Wow.
And it seems to have created a lot of interest because on Facebook alone there were over 100 comments.
Okay. That is good.
Also on the other media too.
Now, by the way, here's the cover of book 2, and this is basically Charlie, is that right?
That's right. The cover of book 2 is Charlie with his car,
right?
Because he gets his first car at that time, and he drove around in an old Ford for a few years. But in the 30s, of course, it was a new Ford.
Yeah. By the way, before we go too far, I just want to put the book 1 up, Charles and Charlie. This is where it all started with his father, I think, who's also named Charles.
Yes, that's right. His father was named Charles, and that's why the son, who was named after his father, was called Charlie, and he remained Charlie throughout his life.
Throughout his whole life. By the way, I see some themes in your books, such as war, flying. Are they pilots?
No, the first one, yes, Charles was a pilot. He was more than that, but he piloted in the First World War with the Royal Flying Corps, and before the Air Force existed, it was the Royal Flying Corps.
Yeah.
And then that was book 1, and the story afterwards, of course, of the hard times of the early 20s and the coming to terms with what had happened. And Charles dies during that book, leaving a young Charlie, aged 15 or so, to try and deal with the world with his mother. And so that's the story of Charles and Charlie.
Yeah.
And of course what happens to Charlie then, when he goes to college and meets the wide world, which he hadn't experienced before, it has a dramatic effect upon him.
Yeah.
That's the story of Charles and Charlie. In book 2, The Taliban, which is the story of the 30s and the rise of Nazism, of Mosleyism in this country. Of course, Mosley with his fascists was he idealized Hitler and thought he could do the same in England. But of course, in the end, he failed. And Charlie has to deal with a lot of that, as well as his personal life, which becomes very complicated during that book.
Now you, I think, weren't you born in the early 30s?
I was born in the mid-30s, 1936.
36. So for this book, all 3 of them, did you have to do a tremendous amount of research?
Enormous amount, yes.
I could imagine.
Particularly for book Charlie, of course, it was all before my time.
Yeah.
And the research had to be precise.
Yeah.
In the second book, I didn't really remember much about Mosley, but I was aware of the world by the time the war broke out in 1939, and that was when Charlie, of course. Well, that's the story of book 2. I don't want to give too much away.
We talked about this before we came on the air. We talked about where you're located. Tell our viewers where you are located.
Where I'm located now is the cathedral city of Salisbury in Wiltshire.
Yeah.
It's about 25 miles inland from the south coast.
I see. And where were you during the war?
In London, in the Blitz.
Oh my goodness! So you experienced a bombing around you?
I did, yes.
Oh my
yes,
goodness! I can't imagine.
That was a fearful experience. Yes.
Yes. Now you grew up, and did you go into the RAF?
I did, but not until the 50s.
To the 50s, yeah, way after the war.
Yes, well after it was all over.
Yeah.
And I was in the RAF for the beginning of the V bombers and things like that.
Did you fly?
No, I was in air traffic control.
Oh wow, amazing, amazing. Now I don't want to get too far. I know this one. Here's the cover again. Book 2, The Tallyman. But there is a book 3. Is that right? Here's the cover.
Book 3, of course, is the story of the Second World War.
Ah, okay. And
that really is much about the war.
Yeah.
It's much about Charlie. It's much about all the characters that we've met in the first 2 books. And of course, it tells the story of the war from 4 viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
From Charlie's as a commando officer, from his friend Bobby as a tank driver in the desert, from his brother-in-law, Harry, who's in the Navy, and he has to fight the Atlantic War. So you get those 3 views of the war,
Yep.
And then the 4th view, of course, is the view from the people at home suffering the Blitz and the doodlebugs and everything else that went with the war.
Yeah. Now, for those of us who didn't live through, I wasn't even alive during the war period, but I guess there's enough, you have so much research in there that we're going to learn a lot. Those of us who weren't alive then, I think we'll learn a lot about that period through your books.
I would hope so, yes.
Now, tell me, let's go back to the one that's getting some attention, Book 2, The Tallyman. You said it's on social media and you're getting hundreds of comments over the last day or two?
You know, certainly it was listed as the book of the day on the online book club yesterday.
Okay.
And I was just staggered last night to see the number of people who reacted to the advert of the book.
Nice.
And they were like I've always been. They were excited about the story.
Yep. Yeah. Now, I would imagine it would be best to read these in order, but does that matter if we go out of order?
Well, they stand alone as novels,
Okay.
but I think, to be honest, to get the best of it,
Yeah.
you really should start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because you learn about the people, and the end of book 1 leaves you hungry to read book 2.
Yeah.
And the end of book 2, of course, leads you into book 3.
And I
So,
bet,
yes, I think they should be read in order.
yeah, I bet that Book 1 really would help a reader understand why Charlie turned out to be Charlie.
That's right. And that's terribly important in
Yeah.
of what happens
It
later.
really is. Todd, what's next? You got another book brewing over there?
I've written for the last couple of years, I've been writing my memoirs.
Oh, yeah.
And that's an interesting story because oh, do excuse me. Because I've been fortunate enough to lead a very interesting life.
Yeah.
I had the experience of the war as a boy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had the experience of the services in the 50s. I built 2 or 3 different careers.
Yeah.
Until I was 60 odd, and then I became a writer.
How
I travelled the world.
How old were you when you started writing, or when you published your first book?
My first book was published when a few weeks before my 80th birthday.
80th birthday, yeah. So see, here I sit at 65 thinking, maybe it's too late for me, but you're inspiring to me, Todd.
Well, I must admit I surprised myself, but it's a wonderful feeling to have done it, and now I just feel like an established writer.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm interested in your memoir. I know you grew up, you're the only Jewish kid in the neighborhood, and then you're growing up, all of a sudden the Germans are dropping bombs all around where you live. It's got to be an amazing story.
That's right. That was the story of my childhood. Later in life, there are other stories, very personal stories that I think I won't talk much about until they're published.
Yeah.
But I've been fortunate enough. I had an office in Singapore for 10 years.
Oh my goodness.
And that was a fascinating life, traveling to the Far East.
What was your career at that time?
Sorry?
What kind of business were you in at that time?
Chemicals.
Chemicals.
Nothing to do with writing. Well, it was, because I used to write sales manuals. But I was in chemical business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my company grew through the 80s and the 90s. And it was very successful. I was pleased about that. Yeah. It's become even more successful since I left it. But there we are.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes out there with all the new technology and understandings of things. It's amazing.
Everything changes so fast.
Yeah. By the way, Todd, we have your web address on the screen. What would our viewers find there?
They will certainly find out about the books. And where best to buy them.
Yeah.
They will see a certain number of comments from people, from reviews and things that people have written that have kindly sent them into the website.
Nice.
And they will get a better idea, perhaps. They will see a little bit about my life. Mm-hmm. And get a better idea of a rounded picture of the author and his work.
Nice. I am learning that just from doing this show how important it is to, I read an awful lot of books, but how important it is to put down a little review, some words, or at least check off a couple stars or something like that. I think that's very important.
That's right. And the more people that do it, the better for everybody, right. Because it encourages more people to read. And there we get more opinions. I'm fascinated by the different comments that have been made this week about the Taliban.
Yeah. And now, where will we
mostly very positive, I'm afraid. Yeah. I'm glad to say.
Yeah. Where will we find this discussion?
Sorry?
Where will we find the discussion about your book?
You'll find it on all the social media sites.
Okay.
If you go to the online book club.
Okay.
On each site, they're there. The online book club has a page on almost every social media site.
Nice.
And you will find the details there.
Okay.
And as I say, I'm fascinated by what people say about the book.
Yeah, I bet.
They see it from different points of view, mm-hmm. and they draw different conclusions, and it's very interesting to see. Yeah. People are so different.
Yeah, I'll post some of those links when I put your video out there. I'll post those links so people could just click and go look at those, or maybe they would even get involved in the discussion.
That would be great. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to join into any discussion that people want to make.
Yeah. Todd, I so enjoyed talking to you, but they're telling me we got to go. But I just want to give you a minute if you'd like to add anything about your books or anything you want to talk about in the whole world.
Well, the books have become a second world to me, and they're very much, the characters live in my mind very vibrantly. I think what I'm most proud of in the books is the number of characters and the depth of character of each. So that they're real people, and they're real to me, and I hope they're real to the reader.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about a series, because the characters will live on longer in our imaginations and in our minds, since there's three books total. Todd, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And I hope you come back again in a couple of weeks or a month or so.
Be nice to chat again.
Yeah.
Let me see how I get on with my memoirs.
Okay. And for our viewers, I'm going to put up links to order these books and how you could kind of check out that online book club and things like that. And Todd, I'm just so anxious to read your memoirs.
I hope you do.
All right. And for our viewers,
I look forward to it.
Don't go anywhere. We have another author, international author, coming up right after this.
Thank you.